Lifebrary, a podcast dedicated to your personal story. A story which is not merely a collection of events, but a powerful chronicle that encapsulates the essence of who you are. Understanding the importance of your personal story is to recognize the significance of your voice in the grand symphony of life. Let's get connected. The following story was submitted by a writer that wanted to have their story read. My name is Gina. I am the host of Lifebrary, and I'll be narrating the story for you today. It's entitled Luck, I Don't Think So. No different than any day early September morning, it was the Wednesday after Labor Day and still humid enough in the early morning for the AC to be on in the WinStar. It was 6:45 as I turned south onto 45 to head to Milwaukee for an 8 a.m. meeting in the office. I hate being late for anything, I thought, as I prepared for the inevitable slowdown as I reached the northern fringe of the city of Milwaukee. I knew where I would be in 35 to 40 minutes, but after that, I would be encircled by moving rush hour traffic, and when it happens, you can forget trying to estimate the last 12 miles of the commute. I set the cruise control at 75 and relaxed in the seat of the van, and I thought about how many hours I would have to stay at the office, how long I would have to stay before I could bolt and head up north to my territory, the area where I make my living. I thought about my day and the sales opportunities it would offer for me. Selling is what I do. I'd like to call it consulting, but the time it takes to explain just what a consultant is, well, makes the occupation sales executive a more efficient title. Soon the 7:30 news was on, and sure enough, I was slowing down for rush hour traffic. The Harley-Davidson Wauwatosa Design Center was zipping by at a steadily decreasing speed until I was down to 20 miles per hour, and I could snap a look at all of the Harley-Davidsons in the parking lot. Then I was over the Capitol Drive Bridge and ready to start planning my attack on the 4-lane sea of vehicles to the office. The throat is getting raspy as I started up the elevated section near Briggs and Stratton. The traffic was still not speeding up, and in the next 15 seconds, I made a decision to bail off at Burleigh and head west on that artery. Artery, that's a good term. Funny, I thought of getting off early. Why not North Avenue or Watertown Plank Road? I'm off here because something is not right, that's why. And as soon as I got to the bottom of the exit ramp and headed west about a quarter of a mile, I knew that this sled was taking me to Elmbrook Memorial Hospital just as fast as was prudent. Maybe faster than prudent. Maybe a lot faster than that. The expressway is now about a quarter mile behind me, and I was starting to feel strange, really strange. I was feeling uncomfortable, like trapped within my body, antsy. My throat was getting raspier, and the slight sweat was starting. I ran west on Burleigh as long as good vehicle speed was practical. While driving, I was planning the fastest route to Elmbrook, which by now had become the destination that the road of life had prepared me for. Blowing the stop sign at the intersection with Pilgrim Road, I slide the WinStar left and pedaled it southbound on Pilgrim while I'm steadily getting sicker and sicker. Pilgrim Road is an open, hilly road, good visibility to avoid cars, and the only chance of getting stopped is if you come over one of those hills and the man is coming up to you on the other side with his VASCAR unit in active mode. Come on there, be there, get me to the hospital in time, come on, put me in your squad car and roll. Somewhere back on Burleigh, I had put on the driving lights, and time again, I wished that I had my old job back, working with law enforcement vehicles. That way, at least I would have been driving some department-marked squad that had a real light bar and a siren and a two-way radio. I could radio and set up a meet or else hit the reds and highball for all it's worth, because I was really having major problems, and the worst was still to come. Several miles back, I had decided that there was no time to pull over and hit 911 on the cell, as I did not think that they could get to me and transport me in less time than I could get there myself. Yes, everyone can tell you to call help, but after the first 2 to 3 minutes of my rapidly escalating physical decline, waiting for help became a non-question. Looking back, I don't know what made me get off at Burleigh, because I was not very uncomfortable. But plowing down Pilgrim Road, I was thanking myself for making that decision, as if I had made that decision myself. About now, you'd be asking, what were you thinking about? Because you obviously were aware that you were having a heart attack, and you may not see your loved ones again. Was I thinking about my loved ones? The answer is yes, all of them. But off and on, because I had to be fully focused on controlling a full-sized van, and that was becoming more and more difficult to do. By now, I was leaning on the wheel like the bus driver does while he's waiting for his passengers to get off, and my next crisis was just minutes away. That would be the junction of Pilgrim Road and North Avenue, where the Canadian Pacific Main Line from central Canada to Chicago crosses both roads. I knew that if that train was laying on the crossings, I would be up the creek because I am too sick to drive another crossing to get around a 2-mile-long freight train. And there is no longer the option of emergency transport around the train. And the hospital via another route, that option evaporated about 10 minutes ago. As I near North Avenue, I dip back about 10 years ago and think about the mother and her infant that never saw the train coming in the setting sun. As I approach North Avenue, I see the tracks are clear and the gate lights are not flashing. And even if the gate lights were on and the gates were about to drop, I would have gone through. Even if the gates were down, I would have driven through. I would have no choice. I was about to die. But no, I would not have driven in the direct path of an oncoming train. A ride on North, and I'm on the last leg of my journey, both figuratively and literally. Now a straight shot to Elmbrook, I'm thinking, but I'm really, really in trouble. I'm dripping sweat like I just got out of a rainstorm, and my mind is getting cluttered with fog, and just breathing is a full-time job by itself. My forearms hurt, and my fingers are no longer connected to my hands. They're just there hanging onto the steering wheel. Next project, get through that busy intersection of North and Calhoun Road. Clear, tap the brakes, and roll on through. Very strange. Rush hour and clear of traffic? Interesting. Now I think to myself, one more hill, roll through Brookfield Road intersection, and I am there. There is no blowing through that intersection. It's blind on two sides, and even though I'm barely alive, I will not risk other people's lives by running that stop sign. Once through it, it was only about 400 to 500 feet to Elmbrook entrance, and I'm not going to crash now. I think to myself, I have to get to the top of this hill, and I can see Brookfield Road and then the entrance of the hospital, but I'm really deteriorating, and I cannot even hang on to this steering wheel. My arms are totally numb, and I'm literally driving with my elbows and shoulders. Then out of the blue, I think of the house that Milwaukee Braves third baseman Eddie Matthews built in the mid-50s, the house that now sits directly across from Elmbrook Memorial Hospital. Where did that come from? Just about all of me has shut down. I have almost made it just in time, but what am I going to do when I get there? Drive through the door? Should I call 911 and tell them to get them to the ER staff to drag me out of the Windstar? Well, the cell phone thing won't work because I'm at the point where I can't make it work. I'm too sick. But wait, I'm over the hill and there's something orange in the center of the intersection. The 2 blocks to the intersection comes too quick, not enough time to think to what to do. The road is closed and gone. It's just dirt. Now I'm stopped in front of the sign. I'm too sick to think of driving miles to come in from the west. I don't have the time. There is no time. None. It is now. Now or else I lose. Okay, Windstar. I always refer to you as a truck when speaking to Kathy, so start trucking. And just as soon as I hit the gas and the dirt rolled, I got a jolt of life. I drive up the left side of what was the road, and then I see all the construction workers with their plastic helmets and orange vests. They are building the new entrance to the hospital, and I can't get in from the direction I'm heading. I roll past the soon-to-be entrance and then make a left up to and over the hospital lawn. I'm so sick, but I'm still able to focus on driving up the big grassy hill, steady on the gas, smooth and easy, and I'm up and over and onto the hospital service road. I spot the big red emergency sign, and I drive to the lot. I slam the windsdoor into park, using the inside of my elbow, and somehow pull the key out of the ignition with the knuckles of both my hands. And suddenly, it is quiet. I made it. Without thinking, I struggle out of the Windstar, get my feet off the ground, and immediately lose my balance. I fall back against the van door and just stop for a moment. I know that I do not have much time, so I right myself and I weave to the big emergency doors, and I am there. Or am I? I pass through the door confused, numb, and getting the whirlies like most of us get when we have too much to drink. I look around and there is no one to help, not one. It is empty. I stagger to my right and there are people far, far down the hospital corridor. They're too far away. I can't get to them and I cannot yell because I don't have the strength. Besides, I need to go to the emergency, not another place. I go back and I see a woman sitting on the waiting room chairs. She was probably there when I came in, but I was so confused. I need to get to her. She has to help me. I cannot do this alone anymore. I am used up, exhausted, and whatever I had, I used to get to the hospital. I stagger to her and say, "Help me. I'm going to have a heart attack." And then falling into her lap, and then everything goes black. I awake just seconds later and hear her screaming while dragging me into the emergency department. Thank God she is helping me. The next thing I remember is diving face first onto a gurney. And I remember going onto it at an angle and hitting my head hard on the wall. And then again, darkness. This next section is from the view of the ER staff. On a warm and sunny day last week, I carefully sipped a hot cup of coffee and checked to make sure all the supplies were in order for the day shift. There was so much to do with Jaco visiting a few weeks away. Thank goodness there were no patients in the department yet. Gosh, we better make sure we're not drinking coffee in the nurse's station on September 24th, I thought to myself. Dr. S had gone to medical records to finish a few charts. MRN to the radiology department for our daily ration of contrast and ED tech to the supply room. Our Unit D secretary sat quietly studying for nursing class she was taking, and looking up across the department, a couple came through the door. Looking at the man, I thought to myself, oh, shit. I am sure at one time or another we have all been there with that thought. I recognized instantly that this man was certainly not a stable patient, and by the look of utter fear, his ashen color and his diaphoretic skin, my fear was that I wouldn't get him in the bed before he coded. I called D to get the help stat. It seemed an eternity before anyone arrived to help. How could I possibly do everything that needed to be done without help? That minute seemed so long. Moving quickly, I instructed the woman to follow me. We moved to the bed reserved for the most critical patients. I didn't need a crystal ball to know that this man was really ill, and as I watched the man approach, I noticed a change in his eyes, and I knew I better act fast. As he approached the bed, he lost consciousness and fell face first on the bed. Oh, great. Now he's face first, and I need to establish an airway. I say to the woman with him, "Quick, we must turn him over." He was dead weight, and me with an arm not fully healed from a rotator cuff surgery. With adrenaline as our ally, we were able to turn him over. Upon rolling over our patient, name still unknown, he regained consciousness at the same time I'm reaching for the oxygen. I'm asking for history on our patient. However, the woman accompanying him, Mrs. E, was a total stranger who just happened to be in the waiting room at the right time. All she knew was that he was having chest pain. And by the time help starts to arrive, I'm so anxious that I feel like I'm visibly shaking. My mind races with all the things we need to do in order to stabilize this man, and moving quickly, we began to undress him. Nurse M, the Tech S arrive, and they start to help. M, without a word spoken, recognizes the need to act promptly and begins to establish 2 IV lines. S applies the cardiac monitor, BP cuff, and pulse oximetry. Labs are obtained, and a 12-lead EKG indicates significant ST elevation in the anterior leads. By now, I have my adrenaline under control, and we're functioning like a well-oiled machine, or perhaps a well-tuned orchestra. Dr. S rushes down the hall and is soon by our side. He requests that I get the MI box, and as I'm reaching for it, I recognize the need for aspirin, nitroglycerin drip, and thrombolytics. And as we fall into step, Nurse C assumed the role of calming, reassuring, and explaining procedures to Mr. N. Nurse M took the role of administration of pain medication and titration of the nitro drip. And with this comes also the responsibility of pain assessment, rating the pain on a scale of 1 to 10, the quality, the location, and radiation of it. I watch the cardiac monitor, oversee that all is going well. I cover him with warm blankets, dim the lights, and ask if I can notify a family member. As I go to his cell to notify his fiancée, I also check on the ETA for the ALS ambulance. Make sure the chart is copied and the transfer sheet properly filled out. I want the transfer to Waukesha Memorial's cath lab to go as efficiently as possible because this man is hanging on just by the thinnest of threads. Then the heart attack hits. I can see that the pain is unbearable, but he manages to keep in communication with us. The earlier administration of thrombolytics is working, and like turning a switch, the initial attack is over and he's still with us. I also was concerned for the welfare of the woman that had literally dragged him into the ED. I looked for her in the waiting room and was able to locate her and alleviate some of her fear and anxiety about the man she had helped. Throughout the day, I was able to keep her informed of Mr. N's progress with the permission he had given. Mr. N was now stabilized, ST segments back to spaceline, and after half a dose of thrombolytics, was safely transported to Waukesha Memorial Hospital. My coworkers and I said goodbye, wished him well, and breathed a sigh of relief. The feelings I felt this day ranged from high anxiety to resolve and confidence and finally pride. I was proud to be a nurse. Yesterday, which was 5 days later, Mrs. E, the bystander, came and sought me out in the ER and shared with me her visit with Mr. N. He was able to tell her of the near-death experience he had that day and expressed deep gratitude for her assistance and the medical care he received. Back to the view of the writer. I'm awake again. I remember warm blankets and many nurses hovering over me while additional people were looking on. I remember the pain starting to ramp up. I remember someone asking if they should call anyone for me. Yes, I say, but I don't remember any numbers. I know who they should call, but I don't know the number. I'm barely able to think. The pain is really getting bad and terrible and excruciating as the heart attack nears. They need to call Kay, but I can't tell them how to do that. Then I remember my cell phone. The numbers are in the cell phone memory. I tell them to look in my pant pocket for my cell. Someone has it. I can't explain what I need them to do, so I ask for it. I remember being surprised when they gave it to me. I'm able to unlock it and without my glasses somehow locate Kay's number and give the cell back to the nurse who scans Kay's number and finds her name, and she hits the call. I hear her talking to Kay's voicemail, and I no longer have to worry about contacting her. Now I am face to face with a heart attack. No more driving, calculating, calling, etc. Now it's face to face with the heart attack. Like a door hitting me in the face, wham, it hits. I knew all along that if I got to Elmbrook, they would save me. The thought of some other outcome never even entered my mind. Now they were doing what they needed to do, and now I must do what I can do to help them save me. What must I do? Fight, I guess. So fight I do. I stay positive and will myself to go on. I'm listening to everything they are saying and responding as best as I can to every question. The pain is is excruciating, and all I can do is physically rub my feet together and groan to cope. Mentally, I'm at war with this heart attack. I listen and hear time and time again, should I increase the nitro drip, with the affirmative response soon following. I'm certain that I'm drifting in and out of consciousness as everything is covered in pain. And here I stop. I've not been able to finish this because I get all messed up when I try. Only now on January 31st am I beginning to write the rest of the story. Good decisions? You bet. Bad decisions? Maybe. But think about it. The final outcome was sitting across the table from Kay on New Year's Eve. So all I can say is, until I finish this, do you really believe that I made all those decisions by myself? I know that I'm still here because God has more for me to do. Otherwise, He would have taken me that day. What is left in this story? Just wait. The miracles have only just begun.